If you are a woman entrepreneur searching for answers to having both business success and spiritual fulfillment, this podcast will give you the answers. I'm Irina Baker, a spiritual self-awareness mentor and a best-selling author. Welcome to my podcast, Radiant. Your business is your spiritual journey. I am here to welcome Sarah Williams. You're going to hear the pro here, the business pro. Speakers, authors, coaches, consultants, and influencers tap into Sarah's 20 plus years of consulting experience to design and refine their online training curriculum. Sarah has developed global training programs for her clients, which in the first 6 months, listen attentively here, for the first 6 months, Sarah have generated more than 1 million in sales and produced more than 20 million in results for participants. Don't you want to hear Sarah here and see what she has to say? I do for sure. Welcome, Sarah. Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's fabulous to be here.
You're very welcome. I'm glad you're here. We're going to talk about something interesting, and because I already know at least just one little detail, and this detail is about 3:30 in the morning. And it seems like, and I don't know what you're going to say, but it seems like 3:30 in the morning is a club that many people have joined. I personally often wake up at 3:30. In fact, for me, it's been 3:33 or 3:32. So no matter what, I would wake up at this time. And last year, it's been almost every night. So they say, and I do believe in it, that it is a spiritual time. And usually I usually cannot fall asleep. So I do my prayers during that time. And it works like charm because I go to bed and fall asleep. So let's see what Sarah did when she woke up at 3:30 a.m. Tell us.
So I'm going to take you back to, it was, the year was 2020, I believe, 2020, and we were in COVID times. And I live here in New Zealand, the bottom of the world, and I have a lot of connections with international. And so as a result, I was invited to all sorts of programs and that sort of thing, which I partook in, which I definitely wanted to be in. But the only thing about that was to be in those programs here in New Zealand, it was 3 a.m. in the morning for me to start. So I would religiously get up at like 2:30 in the morning so then I could be on these programs. And the whole idea was that I was learning and I was working and building my own business, like taking the medicine that I prescribe for sure. But this particular morning was very interesting because what happened is I sat down, I had, my snacks and my water and everything like that ready to go to listen to the content of the day. And instead, what ended up happening is I ended up having this glimmer of a thought, I suppose, is what started it. A glimmer of a thought, but it was a feeling that overcame my whole body. And it was right at 3:30 in the morning. So 3:30 in the morning, out of almost nowhere, I want to say, the entire business blueprint for Lightbulb Learning, my business, was born. And I cannot describe it in any other way in that it came into my head in a fully formed chunk. Just a completely fully formed chunk. The name of the business was there, who I needed to serve was there, the problem that I was solving, how I would do that, my involvement, how I would market, how I would deliver, everything, all in this one kind of capsule. So
nothing predicted that it would be coming?
No, nothing.
No.
Absolutely nothing. I think I was just in that, that wonderful stage that you have sometimes when you're kind of a bit foggy, you've only just woken up, you're not really entirely out of the sleep state. You're in that, like you'd
In
know
the
the terms
twilight
for it.
zone.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I think I was really still in that space. And I think that's why I was in this unique situation where the information that had probably been around for a long time was able to download and I was able to receive it, right? And so it was just super interesting. Literally for the next probably 2 hours. So between 3:30 and 5:30 in the morning, I sat and I like wrote out like drawing diagrams, writing, everything. I wrote copy for websites. I just like everything was like put in place in these 2 hours. Like I have never designed a business so fast, ever in my days. And I've designed a few businesses.
And you've
Um,
been in business practically all your life, right? All your adult
correct.
life,
Yeah.
as I know. So it
Yeah.
was entirely different new business.
Totally new
Did
business.
you
Yeah.
want to? Did you want to switch at some point? Did you consider? Did you
Well,
make
so
a
what I
wish of some
and
sort? Did you
yeah,
want
so
it?
I think this is a great question because what had happened is my business up until that had been very much a face-to-face consulting, facilitating, training kind of a business. And when COVID came along, New Zealand, I think we experienced some of the longest periods of lockdown, especially where I live in Auckland. I think we got the world record for the longest lockdowns. But so we were, there's no way I could do face-to-face training. A lot of my clients were very scared about what was going to happen in their business as well. So a lot of them pulled the plug on any training programs that they had. They weren't interested in doing anything like that. And so I knew, like many other businesses, that I needed to pivot and I needed to pivot fast. And so, yes, in answer to your question, was I looking for something else? Yes, I was. I was looking for some sort of a pivot to be able to still like financially meet, my family's needs, but also to be able to intellectually and from a purpose and fulfillment show up in those times as well and offer value to people, and
Right.
so
So
that's why
did you
that
ask? Did you ask for it? I'm
yeah,
asking
that's a
these
good
questions
question.
for our listeners and viewers because it's very interesting how you got to this point, right? Did it come
mm,
out of the blue? But what was preceding it?
mm. And I think, did I consciously ask for it? Like I don't recall a moment where I was like, help me, like like to actually vocalize it out loud. I don't recall that kind of a
That's what
moment.
I do. You didn't. That's what I do.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But
your ways was different. Mhm.
I know that I was, like I was, I suppose in my language, I would say I was putting it out there. I was putting it out to the universe, the divine, to say, I do need help here.
But how did you
Like,
do it?
um, how did I do that? I think it was more through um through contemplation, meditation, well, not necessarily
So you
affirmations.
just
I
felt
mean,
maybe you felt desire. You felt desire
yes,
that you needed to
yes,
pivot. You don't know what it is, and you would like something to decide on something, right?
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, so then I was, now I'll take you to 5:30 in the morning and I'm left sitting here with this blueprint and going, wow, like what a gift for a start. What an absolute gift. Now, what
Were
am I
you
going to do with
shocked?
this?
Were you shocked?
I was very shocked. Like when I say it came out of nowhere, it came out of nowhere. Like it blindsided me, totally blindsided me.
Like a
I
lightning
was,
stroke?
what's that?
Lightning has stricken lightning.
Yes, yes, felt very
Mhm.
much like that.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, I was just not expecting it. And a funny thing as well, I was so prepared for, like a longer term strategy for it to unravel, as it needed to, those sorts of things. And it didn't. It just literally got presented to me in my lap.
Here is a teaching point I always want to insert because obviously it's my subject expertise, so I like talking about it. The teaching point here is, how did you feel in your body? So when you got this whole thing in front of you unfolded and you have written it and it came in a weird hour, quote unquote, weird. Nothing is weird in the spiritual world, but yes, weird hour for normal people, right? And how did you feel? Because if you were feeling happy and expanded and just not contracted but expanded, right, the bigger than life, maybe excited, so that would be a sign of divine guidance, that divine intervened and gave you this idea. So was it like that?
And I love that word, expanded, because that encapsulates it totally. That's exactly how I felt when, even as I was capturing the ideas and writing them down, I could, like, I felt like I was growing taller and, like, broader, and, like,
Right.
I really did feel very expanded and so excited about the possibility of it. Because the other thing that came with it as well is this total knowing that that was it. That was the really interesting piece, right? Totally knowing, yes, that's it. That's what I've been looking for. And that was a full body sensation as well. Those I always describe that like when something like sinks in and locks into place. That's what
Mm-hmm.
it felt like. It was like, oh yes, here it is. That's what I've been looking for.
So do you think that, of course, we know, but I'll ask, do you think that it was something to do with the divine or it was a human experience? What do you think that was? How would you define it?
Yeah, so my I have a funny kind of a polarity, I suppose. I On one side of me, I can be quite logical, and on the other side, as I have shared with you before, I've really explored my spirituality, and even had businesses in that area as well in the past. And so my logical brain, there is no way that it could explain what had happened. So that was out of the picture, absolutely. And from my previous experiences, I definitely know that was divine.
Right.
That was, there's just no way that volume of information could come in such a neat, concise package as it did if it wasn't divinely inspired.
Exactly. Exactly. And do you know how it happened? I can actually say it.
Tell me.
You downloaded the light. So the light and by the way, I do believe, this is my belief, I guess, from many years of experience, that somebody on the other side, and I'm not talking about dead people, I'm talking about very high powers, right? Divine, your personal divine and ascended masters. So somebody, most likely your personal divine, send ray of light with the information into you. And that information, that light contained the information that you needed because you were ready to accept it, to transfer, to get it, right? And to birth it into the world. So you literally channeled, and we're not talking about regular channels, right? We're not talking about mediumship, but you literally channeled the download of light that you transformed into or transmuted into information that you received and you were able to make it a reality. Make sense?
Mm,
Does it make sense?
yes, that makes perfect sense. And yeah, that's I think that's exactly what happened. Because the other thing that I recall from while that was happening and I was receiving that information was this incredible sense of stillness. Um, it was so perfectly still. It was yeah, there was just this really ethereal quality in the room when that happened. And yeah, it was really amazing.
Right. And that I will repeat it for our audience, that you were ready for it. That's why it came. It didn't come by chaos or by coincidence. Somebody downloaded into you, and that means that's your mission that you have to accomplish or had to accomplish at that moment, right? To start achieving. And that's why you were so happy.
Yeah. 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 It was quite amazing.
So what happened after that? What did you learn, first of all, from that story, from what happened?
What did I learn? I think I learned a few things. I suppose that fundamentally what it showed me is when you are aligned, and one door closes, another one will always open. And like not that the door closed completely, because that door from pre-COVID is now wide open again. But like my energy had to shift into another space. And so, because that door had closed, I was able to shift my energy into another space. And
So do you believe that your new chapter started, and possibly the chapter of the new growth?
I definitely think that the entire business actually caused me to think quite differently about how I approached even my previous, my traditional business. My business that I have, and still continue to operate, but that I was in pre-COVID. And so it's touched every aspect of my life without doubt. So yeah, definitely. And I think the other thing that was really important about that particular, and I hadn't consciously gone out to do this in any way, shape, or form, but what was really important about that particular time was the importance of making time to receive, and the space to receive. And, like that's a lesson that I'm continuing to try and learn for sure.
And that's what I
Because
keep repeating, that you were ready to accept, you were ready
yeah,
to receive, because this information could come to you at the beginning when you were starting your business career, right? Your business, but it didn't. You had to
yeah,
have different other ways to other businesses to grow and to get ready for this one to come.
yeah. Yes, exactly. And yes, I had to go through several iterations of different businesses before this one was ready to be birthed, for sure. And many different experiences in order to be able to work in the way that I am. So yeah. Couple of other things which kind of lean more into the business aspect of things. As a result of that experience, I also saw how entrepreneurs in general are people who see solutions, see a problem and decide to do something about it. In this particular case, the problem that I had seen, as everyone had started to go into online learning and that sort of thing, was that actually the quality of a lot of the stuff that was out there was just not that great. And I had 20 past years of experience of designing learning, and what I realized was that the only reason that it wasn't that great is not because the content wasn't good. It was because the people that were designing it didn't know fundamental learning design principles. And so because I saw that there was that problem, it was almost like there's this one world here in the face-to-face world, and there's another world here in the online world. And between the two of them, they just haven't communicated. And so because I could see...
On the side note, this is just a side note, but actually a couple of days ago, I was having a conversation with somebody who is 1 year younger than I am, and well, basically called himself old, because I don't call myself old, but that person said, so he's looking for some expert. And I said, well, I have a friend and I can refer you to my friend. She's in New Jersey and you can meet on Zoom. And that was interesting that he said to me, no, I prefer to go there, go somewhere in our state so I can go sit down and be face to face. To me, it was amazing to hear that, because we do face to face on Zoom, right? And it's quality conversation, quality interaction. And it was not, I couldn't even, I wasn't trying to persuade in otherwise, but he said that the older generation does not accept Zoom. And I'm still laughing about it. So it's interesting, right? How could we meet right now? You in New Zealand and I'm here in the United States. We couldn't meet. We couldn't walk together to the house and be face to face. And the same with you. You were talking about creating courses online because, well, majority of people are on Zoom, including all the generations. So it's just an interesting moment that I experienced 2 days ago.
And, I find that particularly surprising post-COVID because,
Right.
like we all had to find ways to connect and communicate without
Exactly.
being face-to-face, without being in each other's presence.
Right.
So, yeah, I do find it amazing because I think in general now, since COVID, and, like I'll go so far as to say, I think it's one of the blessings that COVID gave us, is that, people are a lot more tolerant to Zoom meetings, Zoom training, Zoom interaction. And as a result, it's brought the world a lot closer.
Exactly.
I have corporate clients that prior to COVID, the teams had never met one another from other, countries. And now they every single week have meetings together.
Right. They all know each other.
Yeah, exactly. And they really do know one another and, they can greet each other in each other's languages and like all the cool things that go with it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We're good on Zoom. We're definitely good on Zoom. So light bulb learning, that's the name that was given to you, right?
Yeah.
So you didn't even need to come up with it. You didn't need to spend time to make it up. It was already there.
Yeah. Like imagery.
That is incredible.
Everything. Yeah.
So we could safely say it's a divinely inspired idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I could say that once we receive divinely inspired idea, the green light flow, that's my term, green light flow opens up, because if you were giving this by divine, well, divine will support you in making it happen, because you have to have the body. You cannot be a ghost and have a business. You cannot be a ghost and have the money or influence somebody in a way that we do, human to human. And so you have to, so divinely inspired idea came, and then you were given tools and you were given green light flow to go and make it happen. Am I describing it correctly?
Yeah. Yeah. And, once I started and I didn't even do a lot to market the business or anything like that. So once I started telling people, like what I was doing, the problem that I was solving, there were so many people that came out of the woodwork saying, oh, I really want to create an online course. I've been face to face for a long time and I really want to create an online course. Or now that I've got some time on my hands, I've had this, like this concept that I've wanted to teach forever. Or there were people that already had courses and were saying, I know that I could do so much better as far as, how I've put that course together. And, like that's definitely a specialty for me. It's, I want to say super easy, but it sounds a little bit full of ego, but it's just
no. I would agree with you. Super easy to me. That's green light flow. Yeah. Because when it's green light flow, some of my clients described it. One of my clients described it. It's like you're sitting on a chair and the chair is moving by itself. You're not doing, you still have to do the work, of course, but you're not pushing, you're not forcing, you're not overcoming obstacles. And that's actually what would be my next question. Let's compare business that you devised in a human way, in a traditional, maybe male traditional way, right? Because business usually male dominated, at least in history. And this way, do you see the difference?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a difference. One feels push, the other feels pull.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I call it the woman way. This business is the woman way. And why am I saying, of course, men, welcome to join us, right? But women are by nature, we are receivers. We are very much on the spiritual side. And again, I don't want to offend anybody. I'm just saying that women have and should and can do a different way. So if men are okay and the male nature is aggressive or straightforward or move forward and take actions and push through and claim Himalayas, but we like to nurture, we like to flow, we like to collaborate. We don't like to compete. Usually we like to have it together. We have to help each other. So it's a different model. It's a different business. And more women, I believe, subscribe to it. Would you agree?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're seeing more and more of that come about. Women realizing, for a start, that they can do business on their terms. And, I really feel like I straddle both worlds because, in all honesty, in my other business leading culture, that business is, male corporates, like, owners of businesses, CEOs of the world and stuff, very masculine kind of energy. And I have to show up in a really different way as a result of it. And then, Lightbulb Learning has been more gracious, I think, is how I could describe it. Much more gracious, which allows it needs to be, because it's such a creative business, right? It's designing learning is not, and if anyone tells you that it is, it's not a linear process. Like it's a very creative, very flowing process. And sometimes you go through, you lay out the whole blueprint of your program, and then you're like, oh, now I've got to start back at step 3 again because I've realized now that I've got to step 8 that step 3 is wrong, like all of those sorts of things. And so it has to be like gracious, and it's a very different space. Yeah.
I like the word gracious. I usually when I describe what I do, I say, do business like a woman, but do business in flow and grace. And you're exactly saying gracious way. So it's interesting how it feels this way, right? Flow and grace. And we're not talking about religion. We're talking about grace as, again, green light flow, easy, when you don't need to push and force and overcome obstacles. Yeah. And when you follow the divine, when you follow this flow, what happens is all stars align. And I'm not talking about really stars align, but as we know, right, the expression, all stars align and everything comes to you instead of you chasing something outside. And you said clients came to me out of woodwork. So you didn't need to advertise too much because they come.
Yeah. And one thing I've found since then, so this is an interesting observation, and just so then everyone understands the context, Lightbulb Learning for me felt very much, and I think it's because of the graciousness. So, like I said, I straddle two worlds. This is how it shows up in my world. Lightbulb Learning felt like a fun play toy kind of a thing, right?
That's
It was a
right.
fun experiment that I did during COVID in a lot of ways. Like I'm saying it in past tense, but it's not in past tense. But at the time, that was kind of my thinking towards it. And it was going to be one of those things that, when COVID went away and we all went back to normal, that I'd probably, park and it would have done its job and stuff. But it it is it is morphing into an even more easier flow and graciousness business, that certainly is not being parked at all. But now it's the inspiration for me taking that kind of feeling into my other corporate work and my other corporate.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Now
it
you
feels like it's,
know. Now you know the difference, right?
yes. Yes. And I think if this had not come along, there is no way I would have worked out the difference because, when you're stuck in it, when you're stuck in the hustle and the grind and, like the
Exactly.
yeah, just the
Well,
nature
and
of
the
what corporate
difference,
is.
is you were stuck in the mental realm because the traditional male business model is based on mental. Feelings are not allowed, right? Try to go to the corporate boardroom and say, "Oh, I'm feeling this today." They will look at you like you're crazy, right? Even in the land of hobbits, New Zealand, they still say you're crazy. But light bulb learning is about feeling, and it started with the feeling because you receive the information through the feeling. So it's very, very entirely different realm actually of being and having business. So now that's what you're saying. I believe I'm hearing that now you want to bring this feeling, bring this realm. You don't want to leave that realm. You want to be in that realm. And this is, by the way, spiritual realm, because divine is love, divine is feeling, mental, logical, intellect, logic, it's all mental. So there is no love there. So how do we, but we can't discard either one. We have to put them together. We have to bridge, like I say, one of my books title is Bridging Your Soul and Your Bank Together, right? So bridging your soul and your bank account. So, but the feeling has to rule, right? Not the logic, the feeling.
Yes.
Because feeling is the one that provides the flow. Feeling is the one that provides you divinely inspired idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that is so interesting. I'm having all sorts of epiphanies as we're talking.
Of course.
Because one of the things that I did last year in Leading Culture, my other business, is I certified as a practitioner of a thing called Emotional Culture Deck. And the reason I did that is because I felt like it bridged a lot of those gaps, right? I was talking to organizations about the, high performing cultures and all of that sort of thing. And it never felt like it was appropriate that we could talk about the emotions and the feelings and that sort of thing. And so when I discovered this, they're literally just a deck of cards with words on them of all different emotions. When I discovered that, and I started to, I honestly was like, oh, could I even have those conversations with people in the corporate world? Oh, well, I'll give it a try and see what happens. And I was so surprised at how, again, it's like to me, it was like we accessed the slipstream. So we got beneath all we call it raru here, all the
surface
agitation.
Yeah.
All the agitation and all the bitching and moaning and complaints and stuff. And we accessed this slipstream underneath it where we could say, how do you want to feel in these situations and how don't you want to feel? And then we could create some practical boundaries, frameworks, processes, and practices around that. So then that actually existed in their organization. And it was, again, it was like you say, in the green light flow, right? So it was totally in flow and everyone was just like, oh, I get this. And they were off. So yeah, it was really good. So it's been interesting watching how light bulb learning, the way in which it was created, the energy of light bulb learning, how it has crossed over into my other business and started to break down some of the barriers that I've always been irritated by in the corporate world.
Right, because a lot of Mr. Sparks there, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I probably was one, to be really honest. I was probably a Mr. Spock. Like, you know, I mean, my traditional background, or my educational background, I qualified as an accountant, and that's how I started my career, right? So you don't get any more logical and Mr. Spock than that,
That
really.
is for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, when I tell people that now, they just can't believe that's how I started out my career. So yeah, it's funny.
I started my career as a mental health counselor, and I would work with women. And I would say, I would very quickly, and I was 25, 26 years old, and I very quickly discovered Mr. Sparks or Mrs. Sparks, because I would ask, how do you feel? And they would answer, I think, I feel. Well, did I ask you to think? No, I asked you to feel. And it was very, very hard for people, even for women, to even recognize what exactly they were feeling. They were thinking, constantly thinking, because that's how we live in the mental realm. That's the norm for everybody. And now we're breaching that world. So spiritual world is the world of feeling.
Yes. Yeah. Do you want a very quick aside, because that's just reminded me of something, or
Sure.
An observation that I can share with you. One of the things that I train in my other business leading culture, I train in a method of personality profiles, which, you know, my corporate clients love for team building and helping build communication and all of those sorts of things. And I use it's a version of Myers-Briggs is what I'll say. So the cognitive dimension there is you are either a thinker or you are a feeler.
Right.
And, you know, so people give themselves away because they say, I think or I feel at the beginning of it. And I always say that to people. That's how you're going to tell whether they're a thinker or a feeler.
Right.
And it's been really interesting to watch. I mean, I've been doing that work I've been doing for well over 10 years. When I first started out doing that, everybody that I would profile, every single room that we would profile, and, you know, usually I'm profiling groups of, say, 30 or so people most times. And you would have 28 thinkers and 2 feelers. Like that would be how the room would be divided. And it was kind of like this consistency. So what happened is, you know, I'd have to like really lean into my feeling side to make sure that the feelers felt really supported. And I'd have to do a lot of work to help the thinkers understand the feelers and, you know, like all of that sort of stuff. And over the years, I've started to see, it's certainly not 50-50 balance now, but I've started to see an increase in feelers. And I think fundamentally, people are feelers. Like there's a lot of people out there that are feelers, but they've been trained to be thinkers.
Exactly.
They've been trained in their business world or their business life to think, and, you know, to think before they feel. And it's been trained out of people to have these feelings.
Right.
And so sometimes when I talk to people about how do you make decisions, you know, like, is it a head, a heart, or a gut decision? It's so interesting for people, you know, to go, oh yeah, where do I make decisions from? And I'm hearing more and more how people are like, no, the final decision is always the gut feel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, Napoleon Hill discovered that. Remember, Think and Grow Rich? I have utmost respect for him, and he actually discovered, there is a quote that hard work is not the key to the riches. People say, oh, you will work hard and you will become wealthy. No, it's not true. People will not become wealthy from hard work. And I usually say, well, try miners or people who work in a mine or on a cotton field. That's it's a hard work, but do they become wealthy? Not really.
No.
Right. And so it's the ideas that are beginning of all fortunes, Napoleon Hill said.
Yes. Yes.
And that comes from the divine. It doesn't come from the human mind.
No.
And
No.
I believe your experience answers the same mantra. So we have mantra in my Radiant Mastery Academy with my clients. And the mantra is, you can't make this stuff up. So when we say you can make, there is another variation of this mantra. We use both. You can make this stuff up. When it comes, and it's from divine. You cannot make this stuff up.
It's so true. Like if I was to do that and design a business to that degree for my clients now, it would take me at least a month.
Exactly.
At least a month.
If not
to get
more.
all of those pieces in place.
Right. If not more, only because you would have to, well, human mind works differently. You have to get evidence, you have to ask all around and, do masterminding and all that.
Even just the time taken to pick things like
Right.
logos and font colors or fonts and colors and websites and, like all of those things.
Right.
All of that takes a huge amount of time. And all of that was just given to me.
That's right. It's fascinating. This is my favorite topic, so I'm so happy you're here and talking about it because it's absolutely confirmation of everything I've experienced and know. So it's amazing. And how can we find you? Where can we find you? How about, do you have a free gift? Is that 5 mistakes online course creators make? Is that your free gift for the listeners?
Yes, so I have a free download available to everybody. If you are thinking about doing an online course or
feeling about it.
Feeling about it. Yes, that's true. Sorry. Good call there.
Just joking.
Or you already have an online course and you're feeling like it's not as fabulous as you would love it to be, or it's not getting the retention or the revenue or the raving fans that you're looking for. This download is 20 years of my knowledge condensed into 5 points, saying here's the key 5 points or the 5 mistakes that I see people make time and time and time again. I've got in it how to avoid them as well. So I'm not leaving you just with some information and saying here they are. I'm actually telling you how you can avoid them. And so that is my gift to you. Please use it well. Go out there, create, even if you're inspired just to create a little mini course for yourself. It doesn't have to be, your signature program that you're creating right now. You can use those 5 mistakes just for a little mini course. Right. And so, please.
So where can what's the link?
So the link is the www.lightbulb-learning.com. And then is it / or / I always forget, whatever the / thing is, 5 - mistakes. So number 5 - mistakes.
Well, easy enough. lightbulb-learning.com, right?
Yep.
/ 5 - mistakes.
Mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Perfect. Even I remembered it. Perfect. Excellent. Well, thank you so much. This is Sarah Williams. Came to us from the land of hobbits. I can't help myself to say it. Every time I see Sarah, I think about the land of hobbits. This is so amazing. New Zealand. I love it. And I know.
Should we tell them that I'm also 5'1.5"? So that's why she thinks about the land of hobbits. Yeah.
Oh, really? Very cool. Well, you know what? You have this big aura that when we were in person, seeing each other in person, I did notice you were not as tall. I mean, I'm 5'5". What am I? 5'6". So
yeah, I'm nowhere near you. Nowhere near
well,
you.
I did, because you have big personality, so I couldn't say. I didn't even notice that. But yes, the land of hobbits, and it's a very green, beautiful place, New Zealand. Thank you so much, Sarah, for being here, being a guest, and giving us a great story. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Join me in my conversations by subscribing to this podcast. And remember, everything is possible with the divine.